Okay, let's get into it. We're doing a deep dive today on a company that has um, quietly built the absolute essential physical architecture of the modern world. And yet, you've probably never heard its name.
Not unless you're in a very specific field. Yeah, we're talking about the connective tissue, the physical links that make everything work.
Everything from an F-35 fighter jet to, the high-speed data centers that run the cloud. This is a true hidden giant.
It really is. We're talking about Amphenol Corporation. They're an American company, and they produce electronic and fiber optic connectors, cables, all those critical interconnect systems.
So basically, they make the things that plug into other things.
That's the simplest way to put it, yeah. They make sure data, power, and signal flow where they're supposed to and do it reliably. If you're using any complex electronics, and of course you are depending on an Amphenol product somewhere down the line.
I love that idea, the sort of invisible power.
Yeah.
I mean, Amphenol's an S&P 500 company, ticker APH. They're huge, but they hide in plain sight.
Everywhere and nowhere.
Exactly. Before we get into the sheer scale of this operation, we have to talk about the name Amphenol. It sounds a little bit like a pharmaceutical or maybe a chemical.
That's a great observation, and it's actually a fantastic piece of corporate history. The name Amphenol is a portmanteau.
Okay.
It's a mashup of words from their original name back when they were founded in 1932.
Which was?
American Phenolic Corporation.
Ah, okay. American Phenolic. Amphenol. I see it now.
They just sort of compressed it,
Yeah.
and it's stuck. It's efficient, just like their products.
So our mission for this deep dive is to map that incredible scale and also understand the historical depth, because that's really what lets them be so ubiquitous today. And when we talk about scale in 2024, the numbers are just staggering.
They really are.
We're looking at a company with roughly 125,000 employees around the world and a revenue of US $15.2 billion. That's not just some niche component supplier. That's a global colossus.
Right. And understanding how they got there, that's the real story. It's not an accident. It's a story that starts with wartime demand, which baked in this non-negotiable standard of absolute reliability.
Go.
And then it was fueled by constant high-spec innovation. And then, and this is the key to their modern form, one of the most aggressive and I'd say surgically precise acquisition campaigns in industrial history.
So they didn't just grow. They were built piece by design.
Exactly, targeting every single high-value connection point in the modern economy.
Let's start at the beginning. The real foundation, almost a century ago, Chicago, 1932. An entrepreneur named Arthur J. Schmitt.
Right in the middle of the Great Depression.
Which is just incredible. The fact that they even survived, let alone thrived, tells you they were solving a real immediate problem.
They absolutely were. And their very first product, it seems so simple now, but it was fundamental for that era.
What was it?
A tube socket. Specifically, a socket for radio tubes, sometimes called valve holder bases.
Okay, so in the 1930s, the radio was the piece of high-tech consumer electronics.
It was the internet of its day, the main communication device. And Amphenol was providing that essential physical interface. Those glass tubes were fragile, and you needed a reliable way to plug them in, get them power, and let them do their job. They basically solved the first mass-market electrical plug problem.
From that one small critical component, they then hit the biggest growth catalyst imaginable.
World War II.
Right. It took them from a Chicago parts maker to, a backbone of the entire defense industry.
It happened almost overnight. And that's what cemented their reputation for rugged, bulletproof quality. They expanded massively because they became the primary manufacturer of connectors for all sorts of military hardware.
We're talking field radios, radar systems.
And most critically, airplanes. Think about the conditions inside a World War II bomber. The vibration, the extreme temperatures, the moisture.
A connector can't just wiggle loose.
Absolutely not. Reliability becomes a life or death issue. And that experience forged their entire corporate DNA. That standard for durable, reliable connectivity that they still live by today.
That's a huge leap in complexity, isn't it? Going from a little plastic socket for a home radio to a sealed, mission-critical connector for an aircraft.
Massive. And that heritage is still alive today. We have to talk about Amphenol Aerospace. It's their largest division, located up in Sydney, New York.
That facility has its own history, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't always Amphenol.
That's right. It was formerly Bendix Corporation, a legendary name in aviation.
And that's where a true industry gold standard was born.
Precisely. The Sydney facility is the birthplace of the MDTL 38999 cylindrical connector.
Now, that's a mouthful, but for anyone in aerospace or high-reliability industries, that's a huge deal.
It is the standard. The 38999 is everywhere. It's a circular, sealed, incredibly durable connector that can handle almost anything you throw at it. Extreme temperatures, vibration, EMI. The fact that Amphenol owns that legacy tells you everything about where they've built their reputation.
But it's not just these super specialized military parts that you'd only find inside a jet. They also invented things that people in tech or broadcast would have used every day. We have to talk about the BNC connector.
Oh, absolutely.
A little twist and lock connector for coaxial cable. I'm pretty sure everyone has used one of those at some point.
If you've worked with video or networking gear, definitely. The BNC connector is a cornerstone of connectivity, and yes, it was an Amphenol innovation.
BNC. What does that stand for?
It stands for Bayonet Neil Conselman. The bayonet part is for that quarter-turn locking mechanism.
Okay, so Neil Consummate. That's where it gets interesting, because the sources say the original prototype actually came from Bell Telephone Labs.
That's the key detail. This is where engineering refinement is so important. The concept came from Bell Labs, but the finalized commercial product, the BNC connector we know, that was Amphenol's innovation. They commercialized it.
So the name honors both parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paul Neal from Bell Labs and Carl Conselman, who was an Amphenol engineer, it's a tribute to that collaboration.
And there's a great little piece of engineering lore about its early nickname.
Yes, I love this story. It was sometimes called Baby Neil Constant.
Baby Neil Constant. Why?
Well, the Baby Neil part was a nod to Paul Neal, and also because it was a smaller version of an older connector. But the constant part is the genius of it. They were trying to design a connector that maintained a constant impedance.
Which is critical for signal quality.
It's everything. If the impedance changes, the signal reflects back and gets distorted. The BNC connector solved the problem of high-frequency signal transfer in a small, reliable package. It set the standard for decades.
So they didn't just invent a part, they invented a standard for signal integrity.
Yeah.
It's a huge legacy, especially now with 5G and high-def video.
Correct. And that inventive spirit didn't stop there. The micro-ribbon connector, which was a staple in early computers, that was also an Amphenol invention. It's a pattern. They see a physical connection problem, and they solve it before the rest of the industry even realizes it's going to be a bottleneck. #3, the modern corporate structure and financial scale.
Okay, so let's take that foundation, this 1932 Chicago startup that mastered the leap from radio tubes to military hardware, and look at where it is now. The transformation into a global corporation is just, it's mind-boggling.
Staggering is the right word, yeah. The headquarters are now in Wallingford, Connecticut, but that's just a pin on the map.
That original Chicago operation has basically spread across the entire globe.
They have operations in more than 60 locations worldwide, and this isn't random, it's strategic. They position themselves right next to their major customers, the big manufacturing hubs, so they can be a local supplier to global giants like a Boeing or a Cisco or a BMW.
And that global footprint supports the financial numbers we see in 2024. Let's just lay out the scale here because it really defines their dominance. We mentioned the $15.2 billion in revenue.
Which is a huge top-line number, but the profitability is what really shows you how well-run this complex machine is.
Right.
For 2024, their operating income was US $3.16 billion. Net income, US $2.42 billion. When you manage a global supply chain this complex with all these different parts, pulling down that kind of margin is just exceptional.
Yeah, but the balance sheet reflects that stability. Total assets around $21.4 billion, total equity at $9.79 billion. They're a financial fortress.
A fortress built on tiny, reliable, critical parts.
And the workforce, 125,000 people. That number alone tells you the complexity of the manufacturing and engineering involved.
But the real secret to their strength, their resilience, isn't just the size, it's their market diversity. It's radical.
They've deliberately engineered the business so they're not reliant on any one industry.
Exactly. They aren't going to get wiped out if one tech bubble bursts.
Yeah.
They sell their products into this incredibly vast range of markets, which balances the risk perfectly.
Let's run through that list because it really connects to, your everyday life. We start with the obvious one, military-aerospace.
And heavy industry.
Then you get into the modern stuff. Industrial automation, automotive. And the big one, information technology.
Data centers, servers, storage arrays, the absolute foundation of the cloud is held together by their products.
And it goes even further. They're deep inside consumer devices.
The tiny little connectors inside your mobile phone.
Right, and the wireless infrastructure that makes your phone work broadband, which is the backbone of your internet connection at home.
And then you have the really high-margin, highly regulated fields, medical equipment,
Like MRI machines.
and professional audio.
Yeah.
The high-reliability cables used in a recording studio or for a live broadcast, every single one of those sectors has unique, demanding requirements, and Amphenol is selling into all of them.
So that complete coverage means if, say, the smartphone market has a slow year,
The massive investment in data centers or the steady demand from the medical sector picks up the slack.
they're basically selling the shovels to every single digital gold rush all at the same time. It makes them incredibly robust. #IV, niche specialties and market agility.
And that resilience comes from intense specialization. It's not just general manufacturing. They go deep into very specific niches, often by buying the best company in that niche. This lets them pivot really quickly to where the most complex, highest margin problems are.
Let's look at an example, their focus on fiber optics.
A perfect one. This brings us to Amphenol Fiber Systems International, or AFSI.
And they got into this pretty early, right? Back in 1993.
They did, just as fiber was becoming the clear winner for high-speed data transmission. AFSI focuses specifically on fiber optic connectivity.
So not the glass fiber itself, but the things that connect it.
Exactly, the ultra-precise components that connect light-based signals. They are managing the physical transition from copper electrons to light photons, and that is arguably the most critical shift in modern communications.
And they're doing this work from a pretty strategic location.
Very. Their main facility is in Allen, Texas. It's a 94,000 square foot plant with over 250 people.
And Allen is right in the heart of the telecom corridor in the Dallas area.
Right. They are physically located next to the biggest telecom and data center companies in the world. It keeps them embedded in the heart of that whole ecosystem.
So that's the high-spec business-to-business specialization. But then they did something that seems almost counterintuitive. They got into the direct-to-consumer space.
It does seem contradictory to their aerospace DNA, doesn't it? But it's a brilliant move. That's their Cables on Demand division.
Launched in 2006.
Yeah. And it's a completely different business model. Instead of custom designing a backplane for a multi-million-dollar military system, they specialize in distributing standard, off-the-shelf cable assemblies.
Like HDMI cables, USB, network patch cords.
The stuff you'd buy for your home or office. But they can leverage their immense manufacturing scale and quality control to compete.
It's a great way to capture a different part of the market.
It is. They sell over 2,500 different types of these standard cables through an e-commerce storefront. And they've scaled it globally with operations in New York, California, Florida, Toronto, and China. It shows they can dominate both ends of the market. The custom, high-margin, low-volume work, and the standardized, high-volume, lower-margin business.
Now, you mentioned the company's structure. It's important to point out it wasn't always this straightforward, focused path. There was a period of, let's say, structural change.
That's a crucial piece of history, yeah. From 1967 to 1982, Amphenol was actually part of a larger conglomerate called Amphenol Corporation.
And what does that mean for a company like this?
Well, when you're part of a big, diverse corporation, there's always a risk you lose focus. Innovation can slow down, priorities get shifted. That 15-year period shows that the disciplined, aggressive growth we see today wasn't a given. They had to be spun out and regain their independence to really start on the M&A strategy that defines them now.
So that period of being part of something bigger might have actually shown them the value of being focused?
I think that's a very good way to look at it. It proved that their core strength was in connectivity, and they needed to own that space completely.
Okay, so this brings us to the real engine of their modern success. Amphenol's journey from a component supplier to this global interconnect ecosystem. It's all written in their acquisition history.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just random buying. It was a disciplined, decades-long strategy.
They were filling every critical, high-value niche in the connectivity world.
It was surgical. They weren't just buying revenue. They were buying expertise. They were buying intellectual property. And they were buying immediate access to specialized markets all over the globe. They see a gap or a future growth market, and they just go out and buy the best company that solves that physical connection problem.
But let me jump in here with a question, because that sounds great on paper, but buying dozens of companies, they all have different cultures, different manufacturing processes. That has to create a huge integration risk.
What?
How do they pull it off without fumbling?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, and it's a great point. The answer is their core operational philosophy. It's highly decentralized.
So they don't just absorb them and turn them into Amphenol.
Not at all. Historically, they let the acquired companies operate with a lot of autonomy. They focus the integration on things like financial reporting and leveraging Amphenol's global scale for buying materials, but they don't force a massive cultural change. They buy the tech and the management team, and then they let them run.
That's fascinating. So it's more like a federation of specialized units under one financial umbrella.
Exactly. It minimizes the friction and lets them keep acquiring.
Okay, so let's walk through this timeline. It really kicks into high gear around 1986. Hashtag VA early specialization and high-density interconnects. 1986-2005.
The first major international move our sources highlight is in 1986 with the acquisition of Socopex, a French manufacturer.
And this immediately gives them a strong foothold in Europe.
Right. And it wasn't just a geographic move. Socopex brought deep expertise in connectors for very heavy-duty applications outside of the U.S. military spec world. Things like European defense, high-speed rail, the energy sector, even the entertainment industry.
So it was an instant diversification of both geography and expertise.
It laid the groundwork. Then, in the mid-2000s, they really doubled down on high-speed and high-density stuff. 2005 was a huge year.
Two big acquisitions.
First was SV Microwave. This was a dedicated push into high-frequency performance. They make precision RF or radio frequency connectors and components.
And why is RF so critical?
Anything wireless, GPS, advanced radar, satellite communications. In those systems, the quality of the RF connector is everything. It's a tiny part. But if it fails, the whole system is blind. SV Microwave moved them up the value chain into these extremely precise high-margin components.
And the second big move in 2005 was Teradyne Connection Systems, or TCS.
A huge deal, about $390 million in cash. And this was a brilliant strategic fit.
How so?
TCS specialized in high-density connectors and complete backplanes.
The backplane is like the motherboard for a giant server, right? The central nervous system.
That's a perfect analogy. So with the TCS acquisition, Amphenol wasn't just selling the individual wires anymore. They were now selling the entire high-density architecture that everything plugs into. They gained control over the entire internal structure of data infrastructure. Hashtag tag VB expanding into wireless, sensors, and automotive. 2008-2013.
Right. Moving into the late 2000s and early 2010s, the strategy seems to shift. They start aggressively moving into wireless and advanced sensors. This looks like a direct play on the smartphone boom.
It absolutely was. You see it in 2008 with the acquisition of Cefi, another French electronics company, and then J-Beam Wireless in 2009.
J-Beam became Amphenol Antenna Solutions.
Right. This was their big push into the guts of wireless infrastructure. They were selling the physical hardware that makes mobile data and the new 4G networks actually function.
But the really interesting pivot here is the move into sensing technology. That's a step beyond just connectivity.
A huge step.
Uh-oh.
In 2013, they bought the advanced sensors business from GE.
For over $300 million.
Right. And this fundamentally changed their value proposition. Sensors are the eyes and ears of any automated system. By adding sensors, Amphenol went from just connecting the components to providing the component that gathers the data in the first place.
So they're not just the nervous system anymore, they're the nerve endings too.
That's it, exactly. They're selling the input device and the physical pathway for the data from that device. It makes them incredibly sticky as a supplier.
And that same year, 2013, they moved deeper into the automotive world with TechVox OEM Solutions.
And this one is something you've probably interacted with directly. TechVox was a leader in automotive USB connectivity.
Based in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, and they were the first automotive company to release the OEM USB-based media hub and charger.
So when I plug my phone into my car for Apple CarPlay, or just to charge it,
that reliable connection, that seamless data and power transfer, that's what TechVox pioneered. Amphenol bought the company that owned that critical piece of digital real estate right on your dashboard. They secured their spot in the digitizing car. Hashtag VC Industrial Sensing and Aviation Cabin Technology, 2016-2017.
Okay, fast forward to the mid-2010s. The focus gets even more refined here. They're making these incredibly specific, almost niche acquisitions.
It's all about finding these tiny, high-margin markets they can dominate. In January 2016, they bought FCI Asia.
Which was a big move to strengthen their position in the Asian telecom and datacom markets, a key geographical play.
Exactly. Then, later that year, they acquired a French company called AUXEL. This brought in a totally new expertise for them, high-power management.
What does it mean exactly?
AUXEL makes power bus bars and power interconnects. A bus bar is basically a heavy-duty metal strip that conducts huge amounts of electricity more efficiently than a simple wire.
So for things like big industrial machines.
Or, more importantly today, for power distribution inside a massive data center. This acquisition meant Amphenol controlled not just the low-voltage data path, but the high-current power path, too. Total physical control.
Then we get to what might be the most fascinatingly specific acquisition on the whole list, Phytech Ltd. From New Zealand in 2017.
I love this one. It's so specific. Phytech was the world's leading supplier of electronic noise cancellation and audio devices in the aircraft cabin.
So, not for the military avionics, but for the passengers.
For the passenger experience. Those noise-canceling headphones embedded in your business class seat, the touchscreen interfaces, that's Phytech's world. It's a very specialized, high-margin vertical, and with one acquisition, Amphenol becomes the global leader overnight.
That's an amazing level of precision. And the sensor push continued that year, too.
It did. In June 2017, they bought 3 industrial sensing businesses from Meggitt plc.
Wilcoxon Research and Piezo Technologies in the U.S., and Pure Sensors and Controls in Spain.
It was a concerted effort to build out a complete sensor portfolio. Wilcoxon, for instance, is a top name in vibration sensors, which are critical for monitoring the health of big industrial machinery. This was their big play to become indispensable for the Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT.
So if the 2013 GE deal was the appetizer for sensors, this Meggitt deal was the main course.
A perfect way to put it, yes. #VD. The massive infrastructure and beta pivot, 2020-2020.
Now we get to the 2020s, and the scale of these deals it explodes.
The whole strategy shifts into another gear. They start making billion-dollar bets on controlling the foundational layer of the global data and AI revolution.
It starts in 2020 with another sensor company, Exothermometrics in India.
Right, a niche play. They make very precise temperature sensors, but then, as you said, the scale just went vertical.
December 2020, they announced the deal to acquire MTS Systems Corporation. It closes in April 2021 for $1.7 billion. This is a huge deal.
A massive deal. And what's so clever about this one is that MTS specializes in test and measurement equipment. They make the machines that test the physical endurance of other components.
Including connectors and cables.
Exactly. So Amphenol wasn't just selling the reliable part anymore. They were now selling the high-precision machine used to certify that the part is reliable. It's a brilliant way to capture value across the entire engineering life cycle.
They become an absolute linchpin. They're selling the architecture and the tools to validate the architecture.
Then, in December 2021, Halo technology for about $715 million. Halo is deep in optical networking components. The message was crystal clear. High-speed data is the future, and we're going to own the physical layer.
And then we hit the monster deals of 2024 and 2025. In May 2024, the acquisition of Carlisle Interconnect Technology for $2 billion.
Right, which doubled down on their leadership in high-performance interconnects for extreme environments, consolidating their core strength.
But the real jaw-droppers are the CommScope deals. The sheer scale here is just unprecedented for them.
It's a complete paradigm shift. A total investment of over $12.6 billion to buy up massive existing infrastructure assets. It starts in July 2024. They announced they're buying CommScope's outdoor wireless networks and distributed antenna systems businesses.
For $2.1 billion in cash.
And this wasn't just about hardware. They made a point of highlighting the return of the legendary Andrew brand name.
Andrew is a huge name in telecom infrastructure.
Synonymous with quality. Owning that brand gives them immense credibility and market share in the global 5G build-out instantly.
And then, the final massive move in this whole story, August 2025, the agreement to buy CommScope's core connectivity and cable business unit.
For a stunning $10.5 billion.
Wow.
If the first deal was a strategic chunk of the wireless market, this one is about absorbing a massive percentage of the entire global physical connectivity market. This is their move to become the undisputed leader in the physical layer that wires the entire world.
It's an industry restructuring, basically. They went from buying niche tech for a few $100 million to buying foundational infrastructure for billions.
And that transition is the whole story of their modern identity. They're no longer just a component company. They are a critical global infrastructure provider. #tag CFEI. Conclusion and the big picture.
So when you zoom out and look at the whole journey, it's just incredible. It starts in 1932, Arthur Schmitt selling 50-cent tube sockets in Chicago during the Depression.
And that company, American Phenolic Corp., becomes this $15 billion global powerhouse. And the engine for that was this relentless 4-decade-long strategy of acquiring the best-in-class technology for every niche.
Fiber optics with AFSI, industrial sensing with GE and Meggitt, even passenger experience with tech.
And then culminating in just absorbing huge chunks of telecom infrastructure with the CommScope deals.
So let's bring it back to the listener. Why should you care about this one specific company whose products you never actually see?
You should care because understanding Amphenol is understanding the fundamental physics that makes our digital world possible.
It's the physical layer.
It's the physical layer. Every time you stream a 4K video over 5G, every time a self-driving car's sensors make a decision, every time a bank's data center processes a transaction, Amphenol's connectors or cables or sensors are that point of reliable transfer.
They are literally everywhere you look, if you know where to look.
They touch every piece of technology you rely on, from the network your phone connects to the server rack that holds your data in the cloud. They are the essential, unseen foundation that trillion-dollar industries are built on top of.
The quiet masters of the electrons and photons that run our world. They prove that even in a digital age, the physical link is still king.
And that brings us to the final thought here, the really provocative idea. Look at the timing of those massive CommScope acquisitions. $12.6 billion in 2024 and 2025.
Right as the AI boom is going vertical.
Exactly. Right as the global demand for AI training infrastructure, hyperscale data centers, and high-speed broadband is absolutely peaking, those systems require millions upon millions of new, high-performance physical connections.
So this wasn't just buying scale. It was buying scale at the perfect moment.
By absorbing these assets at this precise time, Amphenol has positioned itself to be the quiet gatekeeper. They control the physical connection points for the entire global AI and data boom. They don't sell the chips, they don't sell the software, they sell the non-negotiable physical links that make the whole thing possible. That, right there, is what true infrastructure power looks like in the 21st century.